you're giving someone money to tell them that if you get hurt, you won't ask them for money.
Yeah.
Shouldn't it be the other way around where like they pay you to tell them that you won't sue them?
Okay, look, if I build a house, a crooked house, and it falls down and kills somebody, nobody's suing the state. They're going to sue me.
That is kind of the shitty part. Like, it's not prohibitively expensive, but the fact that you have to be like, I'd like to build this right here, and they're like, that's 1 inch too close to something else.
All you have to do is look through newsreels and things like that of all these calamities that have happened, like bridge collapses and cranes that have fallen down and stuff. They all had licenses and permits and things like that. And still people died. Like, mistakes were still made. The permit is not, it doesn't do anything. That's the whole point.
When you want to build something, the government charges you money to make sure you do it right. Yet when the government goes and builds infrastructure, they take the lowest bidder and say, oh, go and make that bridge. And then, oh, all of a sudden there's cement falling 60 feet down and killing people. And like, whoops.
Welcome to another kitchen sink microscopy. This is the first episode of season 4. So, man, we've been at it like 4 years. So I'm Eric Rosenblatt. We'd love it if you'd like and share this video and, subscribe to the channel. Hit over down there, hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, and a little bell that's a little bit further to the right. Yeah, that'd be great. And it's free. Hey, no permission required.
Free? Season 4? And subscribing is free? What? That's a bargain. like 4. Season 4. $4. Anyone remembers that commercial?
$4, $4, $4, half a billion bucks, $4 or something like that, wasn't it that?
Well, I am Casey Rochford, and we also write our own music. You might have noticed that in the last 3 years. If you hang out to the end of the episode, you'll hear a little snippet that'll entice you to then go to patreon.com/ksmvidcast and support the show and get all of the songs. That's right. You can just right click on it and save it to the drive and listen to it anytime you want.
And we've got merch. Currently is my Zelensky t-shirt available for purchase. Slava Ukraini.
I'm trying to figure out who he looks like with, like the way you've kind of rasterized him, and
I don't know.
What, almost like the eyes are like some kind of alien or something.
Well, I thought, it would be important to take something important, an important moment. So that was based on a screenshot from when he was in the streets of Kiev saying, "Hey, we're not leaving." And so it's kind of grainy and there's this monochromatic light, and kind of worked with it as best as I could. But anyway, back to you.
Yes. Well, what shall we kick off season 4 with?
Oh, so it's back to me then. Well, we were recently having a conversation about photography and filmmaking and stuff like that. And I was lamenting the fact that most filmmaking requires permits.
Yeah.
I mean, officially, and you and I, when we were doing our just fun band pictures and stuff, the photo shoots that we've done, people gave us shit
Yep.
because they're like, "Oh, you have to have a permit." Like, but it's in public. Well, you got to have a permit, and so I thought, well, why don't we talk about permits and similar such like permissionary devices?
Yeah. Well, that situation that we were in, we were like at a parking garage because we liked to find different styles of lighting and stuff.
Mhm.
And they had those like sodium lights or whatever, and we weren't even like deep into the garage or anything. We were kind of like outside, but he was like, "This is private property," and it's like, "Well, it's a public parking lot. Like you don't like." It was a free parking lot. Like you don't even like have to pay to use it. Like how are they like considering it private? Like it wouldn't it be city owned and therefore public? Because I mean the
Uh,
city owns everything that's public, right?
I mean, I think that garage is actually city owned.
Yeah.
It's part of Freight House Square, but it really isn't. I think the city and maybe Amtrak might also pay for it, and the light rail or something.
It's certainly transit based. It's
Yeah,
meant
yeah,
meant to be a parking ride.
yeah.
So it's like it's weird how they don't give a shit if you're taking a shortcut, walking to the bus stop, and you didn't park in it or anything, and like you can just walk right through it, and then, oh hey, how's it going? But if you snap pictures when you're like posing or something, you need a permit.
Yeah, which and part of the uh thing that I think we were talking about is there's all these people making TikTok videos and stuff like that. And no one ever, you have your phone out and you're taking a selfie, nobody ever questions that. But as soon as you have like a pro camera or you got it on a tripod and you're kind of staging things, well, all of a sudden, then, oh, the need for permits arises,
Yeah,
which I don't understand. That has always been really confusing to me. The like, okay, so if it's just you're a tourist and you're taking pictures, oh wait, don't take pictures of the Eiffel Tower at night, by the way. That's a thing too. Uh,
really.
yeah, look into that. It's kind of dumb.
Huh.
Um, but
You know what we should do is like, yeah, we've got those like cell phone holder things that have the screw adapter for a tripod.
mhm.
We should like set up a tripod, which looks all fancy and shit, but just have a cell phone on it and make TikTok videos like out in the middle of the street and see if we get hassled for permits because we have a tripod.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Is the tripod the thing that like requires a permit?
Well, I don't know, and I'm not entirely certain what the specifics are because, again, if you're a tourist and you're just cataloging in pictures your journey through a place, you don't. Nobody expects you to have a permit for that. Why? That doesn't make any sense. But if you're doing a, a film school project or a professional project, even like you have an entire studio behind you, well, now all of a sudden you have to have a permit to do that. Like, why? We had talked about this, the conditions where we think like, I mean, me, I don't think permits should even exist, but permission, I think, is fair. Like there are certain conditions upon which asking permission and getting a green light from wherever you're doing some kind of filmmaking or photography thing, would make sense. Like if you're interfering with traffic, or you have to close off a street or something, that kind of thing, that's fair. Like you're interfering with things. But if you simply have a camera and are walking down the street filming something, why do you need a permit?
Right.
It doesn't, because I could do that with my phone and no one will ask any questions. And I could take that phone video and put it in a movie, and that's totally okay. But as soon as I bring out this camera back here and stuff and set up a bunch of lighting and things and set up a scene, you better have a permit.
It's a cash grab, like they're gonna justify it with like, oh, liability and all this stuff, but like what difference does it make if, I mean, like you could just have written permission, like it's not costing you anything to like sign something and say, hey, you're allowed to do this, and if you fuck up then you owe us money.
That'd be fair. That's fair.
Yeah.
No, I think
well, okay, so if you're gonna like close down streets and stuff, like I could see a fair argument for like, paying some off-duty officers to come and direct traffic or whatever, like,
or paying businesses that are impacted if you're like in a busy area where customers can't get in because you've closed off the streets. Yeah, pay them something to compensate them for the loss of business. That's fair. But if none of those things are occurring, that's what I don't understand.
Yeah,
I don't get it. It makes no sense. But you had mentioned, and I think this is a core argument in favor of permits for people who are in favor of permits, is safety and whatnot and stuff. But like, you're just paying some money and filling out a form. There's really no consideration for what's going on. It's like, okay, well, hey, you want to do this? This is the form you have to fill out. Here's how much you pay. Done. And then go do what you do.
Yeah.
It doesn't, there's no point where safety ever comes into it.
You're giving someone money to tell them that if you get hurt, you won't ask them for money. Shouldn't it be the other way around, where like they pay you to tell them that you won't sue them? Like, that seems more fair to me. Like, hey, I'd like a permit. Please give me $25 processing fee.
Exactly. And I think the same thing applies to any kind of permit too. Building permits, like basically the same kind of thing. It doesn't ensure safety. It's just like
indemnity. That's all it is.
Well, but for who?
The state.
The state. But then the state. Okay, look, if I build a house, a crooked house, and it falls down and kills somebody, nobody's suing the state. They're going to sue me as the builder. So it doesn't matter if I can have a permit. The permit doesn't ensure shit. This is the biggest takeaway.
Actually, if you're getting a permit to build something, I do think they actually I think there's something like to that. Like you've got to show that you know what you're doing, or like they at least give you like some guidelines or something about like how to build something structurally sound or something like that. At least then if your building falls and someone tries to sue you, you can say, hey, I have the permit, I did it right, something else went wrong,
but the permit is never a factor in that regard. Now I will say building code makes sense.
Yeah,
it should be an advisory thing though, that like, hey, it's engineering, we've made a lot of mistakes in the past, and here's the lessons, this book, is full of all the lessons that we've learned. And hey, if you don't want people to die or be injured, you should follow this.
I mean,
That's fair. And that should be open source. That should be just like the IAC, publicly available information for anybody who wants to know it. But the permit doesn't ensure that mistakes won't be made. It doesn't ensure that people won't cut corners or I don't know, just be completely haphazard in their construction. It's just a form you fill out for permission to do a thing. And I don't even know why you have to ask permission to do a thing. Like
that is kind of the shitty part. Like, it's not prohibitively expensive, but the fact that you have to be like, I'd like to build this right here, and they're like, that's 1 inch too close to something else. Like,
yeah, nitpicking. Yeah, it's total nitpicking. Oh, well, it does get expensive because a long time ago, I looked into building a treehouse, kind of a treehouse village, like think like Return of the Jedi Ewok village in my dad's gulch. I was gonna buy that land and build a treehouse village there. And so I thought, okay, well, what's involved in it, and so I looked into the materials cost and like, oh, well, that's pretty achievable. But then I was like, oh, there's a bunch of other stuff. There's the whole zoning thing and permitting and then inspections and stuff, and added up, the cost of building materials was a fraction of the cost of the state expenses. Like, the government charges you more than the materials to build a thing just
really?
just to allow you to build it. Like, I don't understand that. Like, and it's still, look, all you have to do is look through newsreels and things like that of all these calamities that have happened, like bridge collapses and cranes that have fallen down and stuff. They all had licenses and permits and things like that, and still people died. Like, mistakes were still made. The permit is not, it doesn't do anything. That's the whole point.
That is kind of funny. Like, when you want to build something, the government charges you money to make sure you do it right. Yet when the government goes and builds infrastructure, they take the lowest bidder and say, oh, go and make that bridge. And then, oh, all of a sudden there's cement falling 60 feet down and killing people. And like, whoops.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, man.
Funny how they make you shell out so much for safety, and then when it's their turn to be liable for safety, it's cut corners here and cut corners there.
Well, and one of the problems with government, like, if you and I built something, let's say we formed a construction company and we built something and it killed a bunch of people. Well, we'd be paying through the nose to the families of those people, like millions of dollars in compensation. But if the government fucks up, they're like, oh, well, whatever. Oh, and by the way, you and I might probably go to prison as well. But when the government fucks up, how much do they pay? Oh, and it's taxpayer money too. So you and I are still paying. And then who goes to prison? When somebody makes a mistake in government, does anybody get jailed? No, that never happens.
Yeah. Wouldn't it be awesome if, like, part of the process of being a public servant in the government meant that as soon as your term was over, and everyone needs to have terms, you have to go, you have to go to prison for equal to the length of your term, because I mean, guaranteed, if you weren't crooked before, you're going to come out crooked.
Yeah. Okay, that's true. Yeah.
So you're gonna fuck up. So, like,
well,
it's just assumed that you're gonna have to go to prison.
Okay, yes, I completely agree. However, given that the government is the entity responsible for deciding uh, how those things operate, well, do you really think they're going to willingly decide that they should suffer consequences for mistakes or anything like that? No.
Yeah, and everyone's like, well, you get to decide by voting them out. And it's like, yeah, but whoever actually achieves that? Like,
Well, yeah, because it's not you as an individual that votes them out. You have to have a majority
yeah.
to do that. So it's
And
like,
even if you vote something in, like getting rid of daylight saving time, then they're like, yeah, but we're not going to get rid of it.
yeah.
So, reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, like, you have this facade or this like delusion of having some kind of say in how the country or the state or your city is operated, but like really if it's something they want badly enough, they're gonna cut corners and find loopholes and do what they want.
Well, yeah, it'll happen regardless. And if it seems like it won't happen because of voting, well, propaganda campaigns, they'll come out in force and convince people. And honestly, in that regard, I am shocked. I continually stay in a state of shock that in most states marijuana is now legal. Like, how did that happen? Because the whole DEA bullshit and SWAT teams and things like that, the infrastructure behind drug enforcement was so lucrative. It's kind of amazing that actually happened in like almost all the states.
Well, I'm betting it hit kind of a equilibrium as far as um, what they were
Taxes.
what they were shelling out to keep people in prison for marijuana crimes and versus what like I think it became a wash, and that's probably why they eased up.
Yeah, well, and the fact that it could then be taxed, so tax money could be generated.
Well, if that was the rationale, though, no drug would be illegal. Prostitution wouldn't be illegal. Like all the stuff that they could make tax revenue off of, and they aren't.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Why just marijuana? Like, why just alcohol? Why just cigarettes? Like,
that is a big question, actually.
yeah.
Holy shit, man!
Like, could people get together and force the government to obtain permits from us? Like, oh, you want to tell me what I can do in my own home? Well, there's a permit fee for that.
Yeah, I would love it if people did that. Oh my god, that would give me the fizz. However, the problem is nowadays, well, they'll probably just label you as a terrorist or an anti-government
right.
anarchist or something, like whatever. Just pick a label, they'll slap it on you and parade you around town. That like it's not possible anymore for the people to make a decision. Like the system behind everybody is too big and too strong and too complex, and that's unfortunate because we're continually fed this notion that, oh, the US, it's a democracy, and democracy is democracy. Like, the fuck it is. Where? When?
Yeah.
What? Like, where is democracy in the US? Like, no.
And then as soon as you say, hey, but democracy, they're like, well, it's really a republic.
Yeah, well, but it's neither. It's like corporatocratic.
Is that a word?
Well, if it isn't, I just made it up. So yeah, I mean, it's like technocracy, essentially. Like,
Are these real words?
yeah, that one is. But the thing is, like, it is not. We do not have a democratic system. It like well, in a good example would be Washington State. You remember $30 tabs?
Yeah.
Say what you want about Tim Eyman.
Oh, he's right on that.
Yeah, we passed in Washington State no less than 4 times a $30 tab thing where car tabs cost $30 for everybody. And I think that's good. Like, yes, I know the people with the Land Rovers that they're not paying as much, but what about the poor people? Like, think about the low income people who have this car and they're paying $100 a year for their tabs and stuff. It should be $30 is affordable, huh?
Or more.
Oh yeah. And if you buy like a new car, good luck. $700, $800, $900 tabs just for the privilege of driving on the road. Like, the state of Washington passed this multiple times, and yet, well, if you
overturned it,
yeah, well, yeah, if you get your statement, and I have one for one of my cars, yes, tabs are $30, but they've added on like all these other fees to the point where it's like, oh, my old ass like rust bucket Subaru Forester is going to cost me $120 to license to drive on the street. Like,
yeah, there's one fee that's like $48. It's like there's a fee that's more than the tab itself.
Yeah, exactly. So
it's a like, total magnification. I mean, if we're making up words.
Why not? Have another beer. But that's the point. It's like we, the people, voted on this initiative to make tabs $30, and the government is like, oh no, we're gonna just do what we want, and we're gonna charge you this instead. Like, so what's the point? What's the point in voting?
Propaganda was at play again, because everyone was like, oh, well, if we do this, it'll take away from the public transit budget, and then people won't be able to take the bus. You don't want people to not be able to take the bus, do you? And then, and then if you dig into it, like the fare enforcement that like gets on there and like fines homeless people and kicks them off and stuff. All those fines, you would think they would go to the transit system, but they don't.
Would think
they don't.
Yeah.
So, like, what's the point? I did a whole minute microscopy on that, like, seasons ago. Fair enforcement or something like that.
Well, and that's the whole point. What I was getting at is, like, it's not a democratic system.
Mm-hmm.
The government provides an illusion that the people have control, but really it does, because no matter what people vote on, no matter the decisions that people make, by and large, it doesn't matter. Like, $30 tabs, everybody voted for that like multiple times. Like, it was a very popular thing. Mm-hmm. And everybody's like, yeah, $30 tabs, because my tabs are like $600. I would go for that.
It was a thing for a brief time in the 90s, wasn't it? Like, it was actually $30 plus a couple of taxes, right?
Yeah, for a minute, but then the fees kept stacking on top of it. And then they had the fucking balls to put in the bottom of it. Oh, do you want to donate $5 to the like state parks fund or something? Like,
right.
The fuck I do. No way. You're already ripping me a new asshole financially.
And they automatically roll it in. You got to like minus it out and do the math. And it's like, otherwise, if you just like write a check, you've just automatically donated to the parks.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like, oh, it's already included on the paperwork. So if you go with what's there, you have to like itemize it and deduct that one.
I wonder if, like the tax code, you can pretty much do anything you want with it. So I wonder if you could just like write off car tabs entirely. Like,
Ooh.
there's probably some loophole somebody could figure out because, speaking of taxes, because it's, about tax time.
Mm-hmm.
I really think it would be awesome to do like a little test and go with, all the same paperwork to 5 different accountants and see the vast like differences. I bet you get 5 different numbers. I bet you get money back from this one and owe money from that one. And, like it would be all over the place.
Except here's the rub. They're all legit.
Exactly.
Like it'll all pass muster when it comes to the IRS. Oh, they'll be like, oh yeah, that's good. Well, I have a lot of thoughts here, but I want to talk about the IRS though for a minute. Like, okay, so we, the citizens of the U.S., and this is speaking from a very U.S. standpoint, but it makes sense because we live here, you and I. So we have to fill out every year by the 15th of April paperwork, tax paperwork, saying how much we owe or whatever, go through all the stuff and fill in the bubbles and write the numbers and do some math and stuff like that to say either what we owe or what we're given back, or given is sort of a loose term. I mean, that's
it feels like micromanagement, really.
It kind of does, but here, this is the problem I have with it. If you get it wrong, the IRS knows, and they come after you. So if you already know,
but what's wrong? Like if you can do it 5 different ways and be right.
Here's the thing: if you already know, if the IRS already knows, why don't they just send you a thing, being like, "Hey, is this all right? Do you have some stuff we don't know about? Oh, and by the way, crypto's on the docket. This year, it's coming up. But why can't they just send out the information they have, saying, "Hey, is this right?" And then if you're like, yeah, okay, it's right. I'll sign here and be good with it. Like, why do we have to go through this every single fucking year?
Oh yeah, it's
pointless. It totally is. Like if they already know, then what's the point? What do
other countries do? Do other countries do this? Like, are all their citizens brainwashed to be like, oh, here, I guess I owe you a little extra money? It's like, you know what? Like, if you're gonna take money out of a paycheck and you miscalculated what somebody earns or whatever, oh fucking well, like that's your fault, Like, deal with it. If like you said, just if you figure it out, send that person a bill, and if they want to contest it, then they can do their taxes and try to prove their case, right?
Yeah, otherwise you'd go with the default.
Here's the funny thing, like, I used to try to make it so I owed money, but Trump kind of took away the you can't change your withholdings, unless you're grandfathered in at whatever withholdings you had. And if you change jobs, you're shit out of luck. You get what you get. But my circumstances happened to be that I owed quite a bit of money, and now if you owe over $1,000, you have to pay a penalty. You have to pay more money for owing a lot of money.
What the hell?
Right. Yeah.
Oh, that's so wrong.
That's how they charge interest on you. Yet, if you get a refund, they aren't like, here's a little extra for us hanging on to too much for you.
Oh, yeah. You don't get
where's our interest?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And if, Ashcroft. Well, and if people really were if this was truly a democratic system and people really did control the government, it would work totally differently. But uh, well, again, I would ask where they keep saying democracy, but where is it? Show me the money, Lebowski. Like where is the money? Like I want to know. Oh man, I'm not gonna.
And I bet inflation kind of drives taxes up too, because the cost of operating the country is going up with everything else, and just like every other corporation, which is what the country is, um,
Well, like I
they
said,
want to keep their profits, and
it's a
not,
corporatocracy. Yeah.
you don't want to hurt the bottom line, so then they just start charging the little guy more, and yeah, that's how you get penalties for owing too much. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
that's like the overdraft fee at a bank, right?
Oh God. Oh, don't get me started on
Like,
that.
oh, you ran out of money? You owe us more now.
Exactly. Oh man.
Yeah, like, oh, your check bounced. That's too bad. You got $30? Well, no, I have no money now. You know that. Well, I'm gonna need $30, and I might have to break your thumbs if you don't have it right
Uh-huh.
now. Yeah,
Yeah.
those little thummies. That guy just died, actually.
What's that?
That guy from Red Dwarf, he just died not too long ago.
Which the
The
guy
tax collector guy.
tax oh
Yeah.
oh man. Damn, we're getting old.
Mm-hmm.
Well, time's running out to make a difference.
Yeah.
Yeah, it man, it bugs me that people are so conditioned, and it really is fear. People are afraid of the government and the IRS and the DEA and stuff, and they don't want to do anything that isn't allowed. But it's like, well, does anybody ever stop and ask, does this even make any sense? Is that like a realistic, logical rule? And if not, why are we following it?
It's power.
Yeah, which, well, we've talked about that before. That actually is no different than religion. It's
Well, I mean, I guess it's kind of like religion in that, like, it's a little silly, but it does have real effects. So in that regard, it's real. I mean,
well,
to say that power doesn't like isn't real or doesn't actually exist is almost like saying love doesn't exist or something.
well,
It's
no,
a
no,
state of
no.
mind.
My point about power not existing is like it requires everybody to keep the faith, to keep power in existence. If nobody really gave a shit, nobody would have like these systems would have no power whatsoever. If people were like dismissive and like laughing at them, well, what would they be able to do? Like even their enforcers couldn't do anything because they're all like, "Oh yeah, you guys are a bunch of clowns,"
That's the nature of crowd mentality. That's why you'll never have unanimous decisions on anything really, like
Yeah.
unless it's like super extreme. And most power just rides the fringes of being too extreme, and they just basically do what they want, and then occasionally like put on a show to make it look like you've got some kind of sway.
Yeah, which is voting season or tax season or whatever. Like,
Uh-huh.
oh yeah, you have a say. Well, there's a great meme that I remember, and it's kind of stuck with me for all these years, well over a decade. So it's, oh, Floyd would like to inject his thoughts, but I don't know if he has any right now. So there's a cow sitting in front of a doorway, and there's a sign on either side. One says left, one says right. And then you see the hallway diverge into two paths. And then they converge at the slaughterhouse. So it's like, well, there's the illusion of choice, but you're all going to the slaughterhouse. Mm-hmm. But it's one of those things, like, people are not inclined to step up or make a difference or rock the boat, I guess. Because that, again, it's a self-perpetuating thing that like, we think these systems have power because they tell us that and have occasionally demonstrated destructive force. And so people just fall in line, and then there you go. But it's like,
it doesn't even have to be destructive. Like, a simple fine is enough to deter people from doing things.
Well, I'd still consider cases. I would consider that destructive, financially, at least.
Yeah.
Whether it's a fine or a jail time or something like that.
Yeah.
Like, but who are they? Honestly, like, one of the greatest fulcrum points in my life was asking, who are you? Like, and nothing's been the same ever since.
I mean, nobody's better than anybody else, but
no,
there is, like, room for leadership still.
But well, sure, like, real leader.
Like, that shouldn't never catapult anyone to, like, a more important status than anybody else.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, God, we should probably do a video about leaders and stuff too.
I'm sure where that stems from is when our population was much smaller, and we were all about, like, villages and stuff, and leadership may have been a kind of a one of a kind sort of thing. Like, oh, if our leader dies, we've got nobody who's got their shit together well enough to, like, keep things going.
Yeah, like an elder or something, somebody who's been around a bit and knows some stuff.
So, like, the need to protect your leaders probably became more of a what's the right word? Like a figurehead sort of situation, or, like, just doing it for the sake of doing it rather than out of necessity. Like, if our president died right now, like, I'd be sad because a human being died, but that's about it. Like, it's not like he's important.
Well, no, and it's not like so the system is so complex at this point. Like, in the village context, you had somebody who was actively engaging with people and making decisions and dealing with things and passing judgments and stuff like that. And we don't have that anymore. Like, it is a huge system. And yeah, maybe it's too big. I don't know. I'm oh, hi, Floyd.
Anytime I think about this really hard, I always come back to, like, what stops the people, because there's enough of us that are pissed off. What stops us from forming our own system, our own government, our own power force that can, you know, demand things of the existing government, or say, you know, like put out or get out. Like,
well, this is you're right. And the fact is, nothing is stopping that.
yeah, I'm not even talking
Other
about like a
than
piddly little militia or anything. I
no, no,
mean,
no,
like
no. I'm not. I
I mean,
wouldn't
a
say that.
structured sort of
Well, no,
network.
you don't have to use force. It's faith that binds everybody together. The only reason people do the things they do and uh, kowtow to the powers that be is faith. Like you, they don't actually have any control over you. The only control they have over you is the control that you believe they do. And as soon as you realize that, well, the control vanishes.
All you got to do is create a structure similar enough to the existing government that they should reasonably be able to respect the laws that you create. So if you have a law that says something that the existing government does is in violation of that law, then you should be in within, you know, legal rights to detain the government,
Well, yeah,
to imprison, and they'll call it false imprisonment or illegal imprisonment, but it would be legal. I think.
It would be, and the question would be like, what is legal? What makes something legal? I mean, wasn't it Nixon that said like if the president does it, it's legal? Like it was in defense of some kind of pretty indefensible actions. But then I'm thinking, okay, well, I'll go with that. Like if a cop does something, it's legal. If a governor does something, it's legal. Like not just for the governor, for everyone. Like because there's no way that you can say, well, it's only legal if I am in this position and do it. No, that's hypocrisy, and it is the most vile thing on the surface of the planet. We should fuck hypocrisy. Oh man,
Most
I'm about
felonies,
to bust out the AK for that one.
Most felonies are acts against the government, and so like it really, we're long overdue for a legal system that is based off of harm against people, individuals, you know, like it shouldn't be, you know, for the sake of protecting the government. It's supposed to be protecting the people.
Well, and that actually brings up a really good point. Like, what if, imagine, you know, like in the past U.S. Governmental system, federal governmental system, people were saying like, well, it's literally Hitler. Okay, well, what if the federal government is populated by actual Nazis or something akin to that? What do we do? How do we solve that? And do we want to continue perpetuating a system that would allow them to actually control it, or do we want a system that's more humanitarian based or democratic where people can overrule that? Like, you know, what if some kind of crazy person gets into the most powerful position on the planet? Like, what do we do? How do we as conscientious humans fix that? Well, if it comes to deference to that system, we can't fix it. It's unfixable. Like we will be subject to that forever. I think the Russians are realizing that now, and like I think it comes down to like we need a paradigm shift, and it doesn't. Okay, people are going to be like, oh, you're an anarchist, right? You want violent overthrow, and fuck that. No, I don't want that. Like, I think peaceful solutions are a better way. And I think it comes down to just disregarding the power system and ignoring it. Like, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't rule us. Like, shit. Well, I,
I mean, like, I I think there have been more than one occasion where I've actually like sent an invoice to the government for like taking up my time. You know,
mm-hmm.
like
Well,
it's like, of course they never pay it, but like if we started pushing back like that, like
mm-hmm.
in mass, maybe like they would actually start to listen. And if
Well,
not, like you push a little harder.
all right. Well, there's like in the US, 330 plus million people. How many people run the government? Like, they're vastly outnumbered. And at least in the US, a lot of people are armed. So, there is that. But you don't even need force of arms. You,
But it's
you
not just their numbers. It's the numbers of patriots that they have who would be who would never dream of rising up against the best country in the world.
Yeah, well,
Like
and no, that's a really good point, and that comes back to propaganda.
yeah.
This kind of like religious or religiosity based kind of system where the government can do no wrong. Well, unless they're the other political party, then they're the wrongest people. And we gotta hate them, but gotta love our people. It's like, they're all fucking corrupt. Don't you see it? Do you not see this?
Yeah.
Oh my god! Like, why? It.
I'm sure that like there was like verbal expression of intent to create a two-party system so that one frame of mind could have power in this country.
Yeah.
They're like, wait a minute. If we pretend like we hate each other, we can all do what we want and let half the country fight with the other half while we do whatever we want.
Conflict is the way to control people, which is really important to recognize. That and the conflict is imaginary. It's not real. Those politicians that you vote for in public, they bicker and argue and stuff, but in the back rooms, they're like butt slapping and smoking cigars together, and like life is good. They're balling, making tons of money.
Flying to Epstein's Island.
Oh, jeez. Epstein didn't kill himself, by the way. Neither did Ghislaine Maxwell. Oh, wait. She hasn't died yet, but
isn't it Ghislaine?
It's Ghislaine.
There's an S in there.
It's silent.
Huh.
Well, I don't know.
Nobody pronounces it that way.
I might have had too much beer, so I don't know. Whatever. The point is, like, these people are not your benefactors. They're not your saviors. They're not people who care about you. If you met them on the street, they'd be like, security. They don't care about you. They pretend to, because they want votes. They want support. They want your praise. But there have been multiple studies that have proven that no politician sides with the ideology of the voters. Like, they all are corrupt. The whole system is corrupt. It's damaged. It's broken. Like,
do we ever, at some point in our lives, ever sign any kind of binding contract that says we have to pay income tax?
Oh, that's a no. All right, that is a good point because that's contract law. Um, and no, we
Like
don't.
we'd be well within our rights to require the government request a permit to take income tax from us,
Yeah.
right? Well, yeah, I'll pay tax, but I mean, there's a permit involved in that, and
Oh, and there's some paperwork you got to sign and fill out, and
oh, you want that much? Oh, I'm afraid that's a violation of our code. You can have this much.
well, no, that is a really good point. That our parents sign us up for shit like that. And there's the whole what's it
Well, even
called?
then, do they sign? Like nobody signs anything.
Well, I guess this Social Security is kind of the only thing that parents sign people up. But by the way, if you have kids, never sign them up for Social Security. They can do it themselves when they're 18 and go to work if they want to. Do not do it. Please do not do it because as soon as they turn 18, there's no going back. I have a whole book about that.
They not take Social Security out if you're like 16.
Mm-mm.
Oh,
Well, no, if you're working, they do. But it should be something you voluntarily sign up for when you're competent and aware of what's going on. And it's a decision you should make yourself, not your parents when you were an infant. That doesn't make any sense.
I had a bunch of people telling me that Social Security isn't tax, and I'm like, the fuck it ain't. Like,
Yeah, and it's also a Ponzi scheme.
yeah,
Like, uh,
like you got all these people like living longer, having kids for the sake of having kids, and like inflation is a thing, and it's like how are we getting more and more people, more and more old people, and still somehow having enough money for them, much less guaranteeing that safety net will be there for us. Like,
yeah,
I don't buy it.
I don't either.
They're like, it's not taxed because you'll get it back someday, and it's like, well, no. No, like, tell me who lives long enough.
That's not how any of this works.
Who lives long enough to reach the end of what they've paid into Social Security?
Well, and how is it not tax if you get it back? It's extortion. You can't not pay that. Like it would not be a tax if you could just be if it was voluntary. If you could be like, well, I don't really want to pay that.
Oh, and the government hates it when you say it's extortion. Like,
oh yeah,
they're like, no, it's not. Don't say that. It's not right to say that. You shouldn't say that. You can't say that.
Well, I'm going to keep saying it because it really is like seriously. If anybody's in doubt, look up the definition of extortion and tell me how it differs from income tax, like or any tax for that matter. Like,
saddle up your Munchausen syndrome. tell me how it's not extortion.
Yeah, exactly. Like, and I don't have a problem with social safety nets and systems to support people. I'm 100% in favor of that, but like by force, where nobody has a choice, like, well, that tells me that it's a bullshit system that doesn't work. And because if it worked, people would be more than willing to contribute. They'd be like, oh well, if I don't contribute, I'm not going to get this thing, or I won't help other people.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that you're forced to, and if you don't do it, you go to fucking prison.
Well, and like everyone's like, well, you got to put away for retirement. Well, what's Social Security? Like, but yeah, nobody can like live off of Social Security.
Oh no! Oh my God, no!
And Medicare sucks. I've been on Medicare.
Yeah,
I'm like one of the few 40-year-olds that can say he's been on Medicare, and it sucks.
It totally sucks. Yeah. Like there are better ways. This is the thing. The problem I have with governmental systems is it's a monopoly. It's a one size fits all kind of thing. Like, oh, well, these people you don't know and probably didn't even vote for have decided for you that this is best for you. And you're going to swallow this pill and you're going to like it. And if you don't, you're going to prison. And then your buddies are going to pay for you being in prison. Like, oh man, like, isn't there a better way?
To come full circle,
mm-hmm.
Thinking of monopolies, I was like, well, is it really a monopoly? Like infrastructure, like before you have mentioned, well, like HOAs can pool money together to fix a road. And then I thought, well, they probably got to go get a permit, don't they?
Yes, they do. They totally do.
So now we're back to permits.
Exactly. Well, and man, briefly, we should probably bring up like zoning too.
Yeah.
Because that kind of comes
That's kind of a
it.
permit sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, and it's sort of like a, ivory tower grand plan, like a planned city and stuff. And it's like, well, okay, look, I'd be in favor of that if you could demonstrate that you have successfully planned a city ever.
I actually see some merit in zoning, and there's actually science that goes into it. Like I've applied for jobs where like all you do is like test the environment to make sure that like, the impact of whatever is in that particular zone is, not harming things. And it's like, yeah, like if you're going to produce pollution, it makes sense to kind of tuck it into one corner so it's like minimizing the impact it has on living space.
Okay, no, I agree with that.
And like protected lands, like wetlands and stuff, like cordoning off zones that you shouldn't trodden upon or build on, or level the trees or whatever. I'm all for that.
No, I totally agree with that. But when
it should
it's
be
arbitrary,
yeah,
where zoning, and I'm speaking more not to the environmental side, but to the societal structural side. Well, this area is the industrial area. This is the commercial area. This is the residential area. Like, but that's exactly why housing is expensive. Well, it's a major contributing factor.
Well, it didn't used to be that way. Like, you and I were roommates in a place that once was a market with some apartments above it.
Yeah.
And now it's all residential. And the very few grandfathered in businesses that were there are gone now, like level.
Mm-hmm. Well, it used to be that houses a long time ago, probably in my time, maybe in your time, Casey, but houses, people used to build businesses in front of their houses. So you would have your house and then a shop in front doing whatever it is you do, providing value to the community. And it was okay. You didn't have to ask permission. You didn't have to, they'd be like, oh, that's commercial. You're changing tires. That's industrial. Like that didn't happen. That wasn't a thing. It was like, well, what do people need here? There's horses. We need farriers. There's carriages. We need people to make buggy whips and stuff like that. Like whatever was needed.
I remember a time where you could be walking in the middle of a residential area, like 6 blocks from the nearest main thoroughfare, and there was a little mini market, and you can go in and get some soda and candy and continue on your merry way. Those are dinosaurs. If you find one of those, it's like, oh man, I feel like I should stop there and buy something just so they stay in business.
Yeah, and it's bullshit, because it's like, look, think about it. Think about it just pragmatically. Like, what do we want?
Yeah.
I would like to, like you're saying, go out onto the street. I want to go walk down the street and find my neighbors. They have a little shack. They're making like some tacos or something, and
Yeah.
like, and I just go and like I eat the food. If I get sick, I'm like give them a bad review online, and then that's good enough.
Or
That should be good
you're in
enough.
a low income area and you want to go do your laundry, but you don't have a car and you
Hmm.
can't afford a washer and dryer. It would be nice if you could just like take your laundry basket and walk 2 blocks to a laundromat.
Oh,
You know,
walk to some house that has professional laundry equipment
yeah.
that they could utilize. That is okay. So that licensing is another factor too.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
that really,
Oh, we're gonna need another beer.
yeah, yeah. I mean, what I'd like to try to keep it simple, but like the problem with licensing is it again is a one size fits all kind of thing, and I don't consider it a solution. I don't think there's a problem to be solved. It's like, hey, people have skills, they want to do these things in exchange for money, coin of the realm. They should be allowed to, but then the system says, oh well, wait, you can't do that. I remember a story of a woman who did African hair braiding, and the state came down on her. Fortunately, I think the Institute for Justice like stepped up and like took her case to defend her. But they said, oh well, you have to have a cosmetology license. But if you, it's like $3,000 to get that. Oh, like and months of going to school, and they don't even teach African hair braiding. So, like, okay, in order to do this thing, you have to get a license at great expense, like significant, especially in inner city places and stuff. Like that's a 3,000. I can't fucking afford $3,000 for a license. I can't even imagine in Detroit what you'd have to pay, or how that would affect you. But and then you come through it, and they don't even teach you about the thing that the license is supposed to affect. It doesn't make any sense. It, man, yeah.
Yeah, I remember when we started our business, we were like, "Oh, we need a business license." Okay, and we went and got a state of Washington business license.
Yeah.
And then I think maybe a couple years into it, I can't even remember how we figured this out. I think finally the city of Tacoma was like, "Oh, you're a business. Uh, do you have a city of Tacoma business license? Well, now you owe back taxes to the city." And then it became evident that you pay tax like at least 3 times for every dollar you have to pay tax on it at least 3 times if you're a business.
No, and it was
D&O
actually
tax, excise tax, like if you're a partnership, you take it home and you pay income tax on it, like,
your tax as a business, your tax as an individual,
yeah.
unless you're one of the elites. Um, like I said, it's a corporatocracy. Like if you're in the special camp, you don't have to deal with that stuff.
Yeah.
The plebes, us little people that are just trying to make ends meet, yeah, we're beat down, and we're beat down by the system for a reason. The system is built to do that, to keep people down. They don't want people to compete with them. But yeah, like what you're saying, I think it was actually because the city of Tacoma wanted us to fix a printer, and then they realized, like, oh, you don't have a city license, which, by the way, okay, as I remember, The state license, the state of Washington license for us was like $35, but the city license was like $115. Like, how does it? So I can get a license to operate a business in this whole state, but if I want to operate in Tacoma, it costs like 3 times as much. The fuck? Like,
and
that doesn't
and
make any sense.
and we had to pay sales tax in whichever city and or county that we went and did on-site work in.
Mm-hmm.
And we probably were supposed to get city licenses for all of those too, which would just be asinine.
Kent was the worst with that one street. Like, on one side it's this rate, and on the other side it's that rate. And don't get me started on B&O tax. Fuck.
Yeah. Ugh.
Yeah.
Way too much tax. Like whatever happened to, like, you can't be double taxed? Like, well, is that even a thing, or am I just imagining? Is that like a Mandela effect?
It might be a Mandela effect. I think you're thinking double jeopardy, as far as like you can't be accused or convicted of the same crime twice. Although actually you can, thanks to the state. Hey, keep voting, motherfuckers. Oh man. Oh,
Yeah, it's enough to drive you crazy. Like,
it is. Well, and I've always advocated for business. For that's the way out. That, like, you want to dig yourself out of the hole, homelessness, whatever kind of like dark thing has happened to you. Running a business is the way to dig yourself out of that hole. It should be easy. It should be simple. It should be like, you don't even need fucking A. Okay. So, to contrast, the US is seen as like this capitalist mecca. Like, oh, we're so capitalist and so business friendly. No, it's not. Go to China. You can start a business for like a couple bucks with like one sheet of paper and operate a business.
capitalism has nothing to do with being business friendly.
Well, no, it doesn't. No, but
we are very
there's this
capitalist, but we are not business friendly.
No, well, and I don't even know that we're that capitalist, honestly. I mean, it depends on your definition, but we're certainly not business friendly, and business is the way to extricate yourself from the bowels of poverty. And it blows my mind that is not part of schooling, is teaching people business operations and investment and various things and financial stuff. Like, oh, that's something that's very lacking. It And then we're like, oh, well, we haven't really taught you anything. I mean, we'll give you a little bit of quadratic equations and stuff and send you on the street. Good to go, right? Like, hey, hang on a second. You have a lemonade stand. I think we're gonna have to arrest you. Like, what the fuck? No, that is how you start down that path. Like, it really is the way out of things. And the more time passes, the more clear it becomes to me that the system, the government, has no interest in fixing problems. It has no interest in taking care of people. It's self-interested. And it deludes people into thinking that it will be your savior. If you only believe, you just have to believe, and belief is votes.
I think the worst of all, like, give me the permits, give me the licenses. Don't force me to pick some private business that I have to patronize, because, like, car insurance, Like you have to have it, and it's
Oh,
very expensive, and it's probably only very expensive because you have to have it.
oh no, that's a really
Like
good point.
government really shouldn't be like getting behind a particular private industry.
No, because here's the thing. If you've ever, I've been in an
You need a
accident.
public option if you're going to do that. You know?
Sure. And I've been in accidents with no insurance because I don't know if people know the story behind me, but I drove for like a decade without any insurance. And I got in an accident. And I'm like, well, I don't have any insurance. So I exchanged information with the person that I got in an accident with, and like talked to her husband and stuff, and we just kind of sorted things out ourselves. Didn't take any
You
insurance.
got lucky.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. Like if somebody died, and and that's the thing. It's like insurance is important, but I think mandating it is the problem. Like
Yeah.
if there's anything, there should be a public education campaign. Like, hey, you're probably dumb if you drive without insurance because this guy. You know?
I mean, like, if you're someone like my dad who will occasionally go out to start his car to go somewhere and it's been sitting so long the battery's dead, but it's sitting there insured
Mm,
because, well, if you need to go somewhere, you're not going to have time to like call the insurance company and get the insurance added. And, it's not like everyone's handy with a smartphone. So,
mm.
like it's a fucking racket.
It really is.
And
Yeah.
health insurance is really no different. Like, it's such a mess. Like,
No, it is. It totally is. And again, there are better ways. There are totally better ways. It's only obvious. Um, but when you have a system, a top-down system that dictates to us what system we should adhere to, well, then that's how you get what we have now. There are conditions that have to be met, and the conditions really don't make any sense when you look at it. Like, it's I don't know. Whether it be car insurance or medical or whatever, like,
yeah. Yeah, it's kind of funny because insurance, like car insurance, I don't think there's any. I mean, you might have to pay like way extra out the ass for this, but I don't think there's any like real like medical coverage for you. It's all about like someone you might hurt other than yourself.
yeah,
And,
liability
and there,
basically.
yeah, and there might be a bit for yourself, like if you've got deep pockets, but at that point, why would you even need it?
Well,
But
they
it's
call
funny now.
that
You need
underinsured
motorcycle
motorist.
insurance, and like, what's a motorcycle? How much damage is a motorcycle going to do to someone else? Like, mostly it's going to be you.
Uh,
That's like minced meat, you know.
yeah, yeah, that is weird that uh, in Washington, they've started requiring like insurance for motorcycles.
Are you really surprised though? I mean,
No, no. And I'm honestly like not hopeful about this whole DST thing. Like
no.
it's a nonpartisan thing that everybody agrees is bullshit. Everybody.
The Senate just
Yeah.
unanimously
Yeah.
passed it,
Yeah.
but they're
Everybody
still like, well, it
agrees.
might not pass at the House of Representatives. The president isn't saying whether or not he supports it.
Yeah, like because there's no politics involved, but somehow politicians are going to find a way to make it political, and
Yeah.
it won't happen.
And then there's like these like lobbyist groups that are like, kids shouldn't go to school in the dark, and it's like they already do. Like
Yeah.
you can't really escape that unless you like move the operating hours of things rather than moving the clock twice a year.
That
Like,
would be easier because, like,
yeah,
how many kids are in school versus how many people work? Just just gonna throw that question out
yeah.
there.
And what's in the dark that isn't in the light?
I
Like,
I know.
when
I
you ask
remember.
yourself that, like, there's nothing scary in the dark anymore.
No, I remember. Yeah, exactly. That's a really good point. Oh man, I
So
Jesus,
ridiculous.
it
Like,
really is.
this would become an episode more about like sheer stupidity, you know?
Yeah, yeah. Shit, man.
I mean, I guess that's. I mean,
That's politics for you.
I bet if you looked into the etymology of government, it probably traces back to sheer stupidity somehow.
Well, and actually, I think kind of going back a little bit, like talking about like when things were small, government made sense. And government wasn't an elected position, it was more of an elder position. Like you'd been in this community for long enough and you were respected by your fellow peers. People would defer to you to make the decisions because, like, well, you're the one that knows. And I think it kind of slowly evolved and transmogrified into what we have today. And though it's different, the general public doesn't view it as different. Like they still think those people are elders and wise. And no, they're
That's because they're all
fucking dumb.
85 years old.
Yeah. No, they're all fucking dumb. Like nobody in politics is intelligent. They're not wise. They don't have your interest in mind. In fact, they're like raking in the dough, just collecting huge, vast sums of money, your money, by the way, and telling you what to do. Like,
I
what the hell?
challenge any politician that's like twice our age to come on this show and keep up with our wit,
Mm-hmm.
and like get really deep and philosophical with us because I bet they couldn't.
No.
Like,
Okay. All right. Well, one caveat: they have to drink as much as we do. So,
yep.
yeah.
That's
I would
another thing.
imagine.
Like, how come none of them are like real people? Like,
Yeah.
well, I shouldn't say none of them. You get somebody like AOC, and everybody is like, oh, she was a bartender. She's scum of the earth. Like, like she like has a little like flair and pizzazz and like a personality. Wolf. She's not a politician. Ugh. Like, why?
But
What?
then the question would have to come up like, what makes a politician?
Right. Why do they gotta be so stiff and fucking like putting on like this almost like an air of royalty, like prim and proper and
like when the best
austere.
wouldn't the best politicians be like an everyman, like somebody who really isn't the most brilliant person? Like what they're supposed to be representing us, right? And I would ask the question, who are they representing us to?
Mm-hmm.
Who? Like
it's sometimes like so at my job I haven't been there very long, but they're already talking about making me a lead, and I do a fair amount of bitching about how the way things are. And sometimes I think like, if they heard me, they'd probably think I wouldn't be a good leader, but I think that's what makes me a good leader. Is that I'm like recognizing faults and trying to find ways to make them better.
Yeah.
But like it's leadership to most people is more about attitude than about results.
No, you're absolutely right. And it's also about like the status quo.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you're a negative thinker because you're looking for things that are wrong so you can improve them.
Ways of improving the system.
Like if you
Yeah.
don't look at the dark side of things, how do you know what needs fixing?
Yeah.
Like everyone thinks that pessimism is a bad thing. It is not. If you told me I could be only one of two ways, optimist or pessimist, I would go 100% full bore into pessimism.
Hmm.
Fuck that optimism shit. That's just candy coated bullshit.
Well, I would have to go optimism just to be the counter to you, but we've had enough interaction to know that, like, well, in a couple hours we'll solve all the problems that, like, in 1,000 years haven't been able to be solved.
And see, optimism, that's what's wrong with the world.
Exactly. Oh man. Man. Oh shit. Oh,
Solving the world's problems. Yeah.
that's what I want to do, honestly. Like, okay.
I mean, I was thinking about this the other day. Like, I'm not only a co host of the show, I'm a big fan of the show. Like, I enjoy watching it and going back and watching old episodes and be like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that. You know, like that was,
Mhm.
and then it like gives me new things to think about and new perspectives based on my experiences since then. And then I started thinking, because a cousin of mine just died suddenly, only 5 years older than me.
Huh.
So I started thinking about, like, like, man, what if I died tomorrow? Like, the show means a lot to me. Uh, I would want it to go on even when I'm dead. Like, like I know we've got a certain chemistry, and a lot of people recognize that, and might not think it would be the same.
Mm-hmm.
But in my view, I think this show could be going 100 years from now when we're both
Oh,
dead.
I would hope that. Yes,
Yeah,
yes, I agree.
like that's really like the ultimate dream, is to have a legacy like that.
Mm-hmm. To
And
influence people
so this is me
to
saying,
think.
in a living will and testament sort of way, like, if I die, get Joe or somebody to, like, come on
Mhm.
and chat with, and keep it going.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, and same goes if I die too.
yeah.
So,
And you never go to the doctor, so eventually.
probably. So if I die, I'm just gonna. Well, okay, I'll throw it out there. I want a funeral pyre. I want all the girls to carry my body to my boat and set it on fire and push it out.
I think you need a permit for that.
You do, but you know what would give me the greatest pleasure is if they said, "No, fuck the permits. This guy is an
Put the permit
anarchist."
on the boat with you and set it on fire. Use it as kindling.
It would be a, like, dot matrix printed picture of me being like,
You're like, please give me 1,000 copies of this permit, and then you, like, wind them up and like build a little log cabin structure and like set that on fire and like have the permits burn you.
Oh man.
The acrid smoke of bureaucracy burning around you.
Oh man, that's a song title. The acrid smoke of bureaucracy. Holy shit. Oh man.
People do say I have a way with words.
Oh man. Fuck.
Yeah.
Mm.
That's how I want to go too, actually.
Well, if we go at the same time,
I want 100 Bibles to be my funeral pyre.
well, pick your poison. That's all right. Yeah. Oh man.
Holy smoke.
Holy smoke. Oh man. All
Oh
right.
man,
Well, I'll
I'm
get
on a
behind
roll.
it. Ugh, shit. Well, man, this show is the best thing ever.
Totally.
Uh, fuck. Well, let's hope by the time this airs that we're not sheltering in place while World War III convenes.
Yeah.
Oh,
I don't know.
yeah.
I don't know if that's gonna happen. By the way, what's China doing?
Eyeing Taiwan.
Yeah, but like, here's the thing. Like, we're like boycotting Russia. If China invades Taiwan, do you think we're gonna boycott China?
No, because most U.S. stuff.
Talk about our economy crumbling.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. And this is the takeaway, I guess, is like, trade is really important and it's the way to peace. That trading with people, and it's also really important to understand, like, people say the Russians and stuff, and it's like, it's not the Russians, it's the Russian government, it's
Mhm.
Putin, like, it's the oligarchs, like, Russia as a government is doing something over there, but the Russian people, oh, they're still memeing and TikToking, like, everybody's having a blast, like,
Yeah.
it, nobody cares. Same thing with China, the Chinese government and stuff. Well, as long as you don't talk about Winnie the Pooh, you'll be okay.
Random.
Well, no, it's not. Well, Google that. Uh, but the Chinese people are awesome people. The same thing with the Russian people and the Ukrainian people and people in Iran. And oh, by the way, today, the 15th
The
of
Ides of March.
March, the Ides of March, Iran is dropping bombs in Iraq to
Okay.
retaliate for something that Israel did. Like, they killed their dudes and they're not happy about it. So, I don't know, drop bombs on this country that doesn't have anything to do with anything. Well, I mean, the U.S. did it.
Yeah.
Why don't we do it? Yeah, man. I'm hoping.
Does any invasion have anything to do with what that particular country did? I mean,
No, no. Well, and looking at like the Russia Ukraine thing,
war. Huh. What is it good for?
absolutely nothing. Yeah.
Oh, I forgot. Good God, y'all.
Oh man, I like, and that's the thing. Like, governments wage war. The people don't. The people.
We should require the government to get a permit from the people
Yeah.
if they want to go to
Oh
war.
yeah.
Oh, there's a
Fill out a
permit for that.
permit. Oh, hang on a second. You can't send those fighter jets over there because you need to sign a permit.
Yeah. Yeah, without a permit, permanent freeze on taxes. They if they spend all their money on fighting, well, that's what they chose to spend all their money on. If they want more, they have to stop fighting.
No. Just raise the debt ceiling. Raise the debt ceiling. Oh man. No, I totally agree that like, yeah, you should pick your battles. If you've fucked off and spent everything on some kind of nonsensical war, Well, you have to get the consent of the people,
Mm-hmm.
and you should. Like, we
Yeah.
really ought to fight harder for that. That like this is
Yeah, there should be write-offs for things you don't agree with the government doing.
yeah.
Like, why not? Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's already arbitrary. So,
Mm-hmm.
like I kind of wish I did that. Like, I just did my taxes. I wish I was just like, you know what? I didn't agree with this thing, so I'm taking this much off my taxes. Like, and see what they say. Yeah.
Well, and I I'll stand behind you on that regard. Like, it does take. I mean, it takes a while. It takes people who are visionaries, who see things in a different light.
Mm-hmm.
Most people are sheep essentially, and it's really sad. They follow the trends and they behave according to whatever the whims of the system are. But the whims, they don't they don't benefit anybody but the elites.
Yeah. I
Like,
was just um I was just talking to my therapist about this actually. Like micromanagement, authoritarianism, it's
mm,
always rubbed me the wrong way. As a little kid, I'd be looking at toys at Kmart, and at the other end of the aisle, I'd see some parents just kind of being like kind of dicks to their kid, and I'd get angry. Like
yeah.
legit angry. Like I wanted to put on a cape and cowl and go kick their ass and save that kid, like can you tell I was into Batman? Uh,
That's
but
okay.
like that spoke to me though, that sense of justice that
Yeah.
Batman had, and the fact that all he had were his brains. Like he's the one superhero that didn't have superpowers, like
Yeah, exactly. Like, he had some money, but the money is
his superpower was an eye for justice,
yeah,
and
exactly.
and that's always been a problem for me is injustice and people just being like because I said so, well that's not good
Yeah.
enough for me, like I'll do it
Justify your
I'll
existence.
yeah I'll do it if you can make it make sense to me,
Yeah,
and that's not too
exactly.
much to ask.
I don't think so. I would agree with that. Holy shit.
Yeah,
That's, man.
so kind of a digression I guess, but I mean
No,
not really
it's
because
very relevant.
permits are micromanaging really.
Mhm.
Like
Well,
all of
it's
that
having
middle
to ask.
management, micromanagement,
No,
like
it's
all of it's just too
look,
much. Like
go back 500 years. Were permits necessary back then? And why would they be now? And who is behind the permits? Like, and are they actually, do they have more knowledge about the subject? I would doubt that. Um, and when they grant you a permit, and they do grant you have to ask permission and pay the toll, pay the piper. Um, what does that really gain? Like, what is gained there? What's the purpose? I fucking don't know. I don't know. And I struggle with that. Like, why? Why is that a thing?
yeah,
And I think, though we disagree on quite a few things, I think, this is one of those things I think we, well, honestly, I think we agree on a lot more than we let on. Um,
yeah,
like the principles of something, maybe not necessarily the execution of those things, but
yeah. And I don't know, yeah. That's like an ends justifying the means sort of discussion, I suppose. Um,
Yeah.
Like,
Well,
how much does it really matter how you get to a good place? Yeah.
well,
And
yeah,
and we squabble so much over the means.
well, and that's my point. Is like, what are the means, and what are the ends? Like, how can you identify them? Like define everything. It. Oh man. Uh,
Yeah, maybe it's just the way we're conditioned to look at things. We look
mhm.
at things from, I don't know, like an egocentric point of view. Like, how can I get from where I am to where I want to be, rather than, if I were where I wanted to be, what did I do to get there? And
Yeah.
work backwards. Like,
Yeah, and why defer to a third party to make that decision? Why can't it be personal? Like, only you know you and your own world and your experiences. Like, how does somebody else out there, however many popularity votes they've gotten, how are they a more qualified uh, determiner of those things? I mean, I just want to throw some ideas out there, I guess.
yeah. Well, I
Mm,
guess we're pushing 2 hours, so
yeah.
uh, we're probably gonna have to apply for a permit to go over 2 hours.
Yeah. So, all right.
Let's. What forms do we got to fill out for that?
Well, okay. Hold on a second. I've got a whole entire notebook of forms that you have to fill
Okay.
out here.
Which governing bodies do it? And what hours of operations do they have?
Well, they're the governing bodies operating hours are whatever hours you're not working.
Yeah, we got to move that up the chain through the departments.
Mm-hmm.
We got to put a pin in it. We got to table that discussion, and we got to, have ad hoc discussions about, you know, what were we talking about?
Well, and put it up for a vote too, because like that matters. Um,
There's a fee for that.
oh, there is. Yeah, you want to participate? Oh yeah. Well,
Participation
it'll
fee,
cost you.
processing fee, and administrative fee, and a paper usage fee, and
Oh well, but we also use faxes and paper clips, so there's a fax and paperclip fee too. It's like, dude, it's 2022. Oh, but that's what we use, so you gotta pay for it. Like, what the fuck? Uh,
yeah, the amount of waste is just funny. Like, even in businesses, like I signed up for paperless billing, and they sent me a letter in the mail saying, "Thanks for opting into paperless billing." On paper.
oh, that's ironic.
I was like, really? Like, I wanted to frame that. Like, sell it as
Oh
art.
man. Jesus Christ. Oh my god. Well, that yeah, I'd like to
Isn't
hear.
it ironic?
Don't you think?
Yeah, I really do think.
Okay, the only ironic thing about Alanis Morissette's ironic is that
There's no
nothing.
irony.
No, there was, yeah, literally nothing was ironic. It was just unfortunate. uh, man. Well, uh, geez. Well, hey, hey, if you got comments and ideas and stuff, hey, fax us down in the comments section. Send a fax. We would love it. Just don't do that like asshole fax with the like loop that's constantly faxing the black pages over and over and over again, because that wastes toner. Please don't do that. That's mean.
Oh, what was that old acronym for like self-addressed stamped envelope? Something like that. Like, you remember that back in the day? Like, just send in your self-addressed stamped envelope or whatever. Like that.
Yeah, I don't remember an acronym, but I know there was one.
Yeah, I don't know.
Self-addressed stamped envelope.
I think it was just SASE, like SACE.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah. Yeah, we should make that a thing, like a KSM newsletter with a self-addressed stamped envelope. A fax number.
Oh, but we have to do like some kind of advert or something like
tear off this stub and send in your fee for the KSM fan club.
The fan club with a newsletter.
With 6 weeks processing time and 6 to 12 weeks for packaging and 8 to 12 weeks for delivery, you can get your little tiny 3x3 lapel pin that says KSM on it. and you'll be a mega fan.
Or you could go to our merch store and buy some shirts. Oh, just you got the Zelensky shirt. If you want it, it's there. There's other merch. You can get a mug with our mugs on it. It's a pretty good mug. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, yep. Man. That.
If you're right-handed, you get to look at Eric. If you're left-handed, you get to look at me.
Hey, hang on a second. Is that racist?
and then watch, there'll be like a one-off that was printed the other way around, and then that will be worth like $5,000 someday.
Well, I told you about the time I bought the like big collection of what was it? Oh shit. Okay, too much beer.
Hey, you know, we should do that. We should design, like purposely design the mug the opposite way, order one, and then put it back the way it was, and then take that mug and like give it to Goodwill, and then spread this rumor that there's a mug out there
somewhere.
It was made in the wrong order, and and get people like searching for it. And, yeah.
That's a really good idea.
Marketing through collector realms.
Yeah. Oh man, that's a good idea. Oh man.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us for the first episode of season 4. I know you waited a long 7 days since the last episode of season 3, but it was well worth the wait, I'm sure. Deep sink diving into permits and licenses.
Wait, hold on. I remember the Ultimate Hitchhiker's Guide. So I have one that's printed upside down in the sleeve. So it's upside down, and I back in the day, I don't know if anybody remembers Borders, but I went to Borders. I loved that place, and I saw the Ultimate Hitchhiker's Guide for sale, and I picked one up and opened it up, and everything was upside down, and I was like, "Huh. Well, that's kind of weird." So I just put it aside and then looked at all the others, and they were fine. And I'm like, wait a minute, this is a collector's item. It's upside down. So I bought it, and I have it to this day.
Nice.
Yeah. So yeah, if you want some collector's stuff, um, I don't know. Maybe if you're a patron, we could sign some things, like whatever things you want signed. We might
Yeah,
sign it.
actually, the $50 tier gets you a signed book
Nice.
about beating cancer as an atheist. Mm-hmm. Yep,
Except that's your book. So where
it is.
can I sign it too?
Yeah, you have, haven't you?
Well, one
Oh,
of
you
them.
signed a shirt, didn't? Yeah, you signed a shirt.
Yeah. Well, hey, if you get uh, the book, well, I'll sign it too, even though it was Casey that wrote it. So
Yeah,
credit
we
where
should,
credit's
probably
due.
finish that book that is based more on the show.
Yeah.
That should be a thing that we do.
Oh yeah.
If we
We
had
should.
more patrons, maybe we wouldn't have to work and we could put a little more time into the show.
Yeah. And
Guilt trip there, guilt trip. Yeah.
exactly. And
Hey,
maybe I might.
it beats getting permits, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because it's voluntary. Like we're
You
not.
get way more out of this show than you do
You
from any
like.
permit.
Here's the thing. You can watch every episode, and we're not. Like we don't demand any compensation. But if you like to compensate, give some kind of monetary compensation, we'll give you stuff. When does the government give you anything? Like they don't do that. You fill out paperwork and do your taxes and stuff, and fill out paperwork for zoning or licensing or permits, and oh yeah, they're like, oh yep, you did what you have to do. No, we give you a fucking book and maybe a signed shirt or something like that. I don't know. We might even come to your house. Possibly.
We should make signed shirts a thing.
Yeah.
It would take a lot longer to get to people, but
Yeah, that's true.
why not?
Yeah.
If you want to see more patron tiers or, some kind of thing that you would want at a certain level, let us know. Because we can only come up with so many ideas on our own. Tell us what you want.
And, well, and we're doing 10 times more than government does. Asking what everybody else wants rather than demanding it of them. Well,
yeah.
So yeah, I'd like to hear what people want and stuff. That'd be fun.
I think people want to hear a song.
A song. Yeah. Oh hell yeah. Yeah, and we provide those.
In fact, I think I hear one now.
I do. Oh, that's a good one. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. That's a really good song.
Hopefully that's in time.
Hopefully. But we provide them weekly for free. If you can't afford to pay for the whole song, you can at least hear a clip of the song. You get a little bit. Yeah. And if you're a songwriter and want to contribute, we're down for that. Because
yeah, we've done a few collabs. So
yeah, I'd love to do more. Just saying, before World War III starts, come on, let's write a song together.